You played a major role in one of my favorite shows of all time, Andrew Lloyd Webber's Sunset Boulevard. You understudied the role of Norma Desmond in London's West End, taking over for the lead actress Patti LuPone. And eventually you played the role for about a year. Glenn Close played the role on Broadway, of course. What is it like to perform the lead role in a major production on an international stage?
Phenomenal. I mean, it was so exciting, and the reason it was so exciting is it was brand new. I mean, we had just opened, and I was thrown on 2 weeks after we'd opened with virtually no rehearsals, no notice. It was spectacular. It was one of the high points of my life. Just all of your craft, your study, your skill is all for that moment, and it was just so exciting.
Well, how did you land this major role?
Well, I was cast in the original musical, and I was in the ensemble, and I had the most characters in the ensemble. And I was originally the second understudy. However, 2 weeks after we opened, the first understudy was on holiday, and Patti became sick with tonsillitis. So I was basically thrown on with an hour and 40 minutes notice, virtually no rehearsals, and that's how it all started.
Well, for you, what is the draw to performing in live theater, and how early did it happen for you?
Well, for me, the draw for performing in live theater is because it's magical, and it is almost transformative. You know, you're all sitting together, people who don't know one another, and you all go together and you take a journey. And as an actor, it's almost shamanic in its function. And when did it begin? Well, I'm kind of the old theater adage of born in a trunk. And the way that started was my sister took me when I was 5 years old as her show and tell project, stood me on the desk, I sang Hello Young Lovers, and that was it. I've sung that in shows since.
Oh, that's fantastic. What has been the absolute best moment on stage for you?
Oh, I've had so many best moments, but I would say perhaps the best moment on stage is, as I was saying when I was thrown on with virtually no notice, it went well. We had a huge standing ovation, and as I was getting ready to take the end of my bow, the audience burst into screaming and yelling. It was just, the house rumbled, and Andrew Lloyd Webber walked on stage and he presented me with flowers, and then he kept pushing me out to take more calls, and I would say that's up there with best moments.
That's fantastic, because oftentimes doesn't the understudy worry about the fact that the audience has come to see the star whose name is on the marquee?
Well, when they announce that the star is not there, you hear a collective "Ugh" from the audience. So I learned to turn off the loudspeaker in my dressing room, and that helped. But we had the advantage within Sunset that within the first few moments of Norma's entrance was a huge number, and then they knew they were in good hands, and we would go from there. And it was a thrilling and exciting experience.
And you're helping give some kids and teenagers a thrilling and exciting experience on the stage too, in Keene Valley, through your involvement in a day theater camp called the Book and Blanket Players. What can you tell us about this program?
The Book and Blanket Players program is this collective, creative group of adult artists coming together with very passionate young artists and doing a show in a week. It very much feels like a summer stock program, and it's fantastic.
These young kids get 5.5 days of rehearsal in the summer, leading up to one performance. And Kathleen Recchia founded the program. What is your role when you work with these kids?
My role when I work with these kids is as a voice master teacher. So that means all things musical, from technique to interpretation to placement, whether it be dramatic or musical, that's all in my wheelhouse.
I'm longing for a different view. Where are the answers? Who holds the key? What's waiting round the bend for me?
Well, these kids, they get 5.5 days of rehearsal, and you're no stranger to a little rehearsal.
No, I am not. You know, when I was telling you about being thrown on in Sunset, I arrived in a taxi cab, and all of the girls in the ensemble thought I had been mugged because I was as gray as a sheet. And then when they heard, they all looked gray. So I decided I had to get it together. So I walked into the costume shop, I started picking costumes, and I knew I couldn't do all those stairs in unfamiliar shoes, had them dye my shoes, and in my undergarments, the phone rings. And it's Andrew Lloyd Webber wishing me well. And all I could say was, thank you so much, but I have to get off the phone now or we aren't going to have a show.
That's amazing. You talked about walking up the stairs on the set in your own shoes. And I know that you do some physical exercises with these students during the rehearsal mornings.
Take one more in. And out.
Why is physicality so important when you're working with the voice?
Well, physicality is so important because your instrument is your body. He's a strutter. And when he sings, he kind of struts, right? Yeah. Right? It's not just about breath and voice placement. It's about the way we carry ourselves, where we place our voice, and crafting a character that physically moves in tandem with what you're trying to portray. I want everyone to walk around the room as their character. Da 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 da. As your character.
I've seen you work with students on articulation.
Mm-hmm. Articulation, and you can get away with anything if you really put the character in there. Articulation is important because there's no use in telling a story if people can't understand what you're saying. So just say the first line to me with your finger there.
Singing an old-time melody. That's how my mama lullabied me.
It is kind of weird. Yeah. Now try and do it and allow your teeth to loosen a little bit more. Singing an old-time melody, like articulate more so you don't completely eat your finger, if that makes sense. You know, so often, especially young folks, mumble. And we had a show, and we had the big punchline and the end of the second act, and the young woman who said it went, and the man sitting next to me said, "What did she say?" So that's why articulation's important. You have no joke if you don't articulate. After it was done, I didn't want to tell the student because I didn't want her to feel awful. I didn't say anything to her. If we had continued with the show, I would have. But you know, it's very important. You want to say things that are constructive in criticism, but you don't want to wound people, you know? And I'd worked on it with her. I was like, "Can you please articulate that?" That was it.
If there were someone who, a special someone who, that certain someone who could get.
Perfect, so we're gonna cheat here. A special someone, breath. You don't speak that way. Special someone, a quick catch breath for the intention. Special someone who could care. You could go on for days. Totally wrong intention, right? Mm-hmm.
And when the kids prepare to sing a song on the stage, you actually help them go beyond just standing on the stage singing a song.
Right. I mean, I always say to young artists, we aren't just standing and singing, because anyone can do that. Having a beautiful voice is nice, but we are storytelling. It just happens to be through song. In the theater, we sing because words aren't enough. Tell me if you see any difference. What are the first few words? I should have this memorized.
I look around and all I see are the blank pages of a life that's yet to be.
I look around and all I see are the blank pages of a life that's yet to be. Oh, shoot me now. Right, I'm so depressed. But hopeful, same words, same music, different intention. I look around and all I see, the blank pages of a life that's meant to be. Oh my gosh, my life could really be something, right? Same song, same music, different intention. Often when you're singing a song, you sing and you're with the rhythm and the music and you don't think about the words. I have them speak the song as a monologue and have them find real places in it. So work it as a dramatic piece. And when we first do it, most of my students just hate it, but then they find how empowering that tool is. So that's what we do. And we also work on proper breath placement and projection, and if someone is using their voice in an unhealthy way, we'll address it.
Yeah, I can imagine these kids during their 5.5 days of rehearsals, they're tempted to just want to belt out those songs for every rehearsal before the real performance.
They do. And so my job as a professional is to help them with healthy vocal technique and to be able to pace themselves, knowing when to sing out and knowing when to pull back so you don't blow it out. Because if you continue to sing like that, you might have nothing left. And I don't want anyone trashing their voice. To me, that's the worst thing ever.
Well, you ought to know about saving your voice because you've performed Evita in Los Angeles, and the part of Eva Perón is extremely demanding on the voice. How did you get through those 8 performances a week?
Breath, 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 and some more breath. No, truly, it's about vocal placement because there are parts in the show and she sings, "He supports you for he loves you." She sings up there, and it's knowing that you can connect to your breath. And 8 shows a week, you physically can become exhausted. But what ends up happening is if you tap into your breath, it gives you a new reserve of energy, even if you don't have your best and full voice.
Well, I've seen you work with students on their breath. Why else is this so important?
Well, it's the foundation of all singing. For instance, if you go to sing, a lot of people breathe incorrectly and they find themselves, when they get nervous, shallow, and then you go to sing, and you have nothing. But if you get a good deep breath, do you hear how big that is? It's all because of the breath. And that's why it's so important. That's the first thing I try to impart to young students.
And you even have exercises that they can work on at home at night.
I do. I call it Night Mom. And it basically is it helps you drop into your breath. So the goal is when you're laying in bed at night to drop into your natural breath and put a heavy 10-pound bag of potatoes or the cat or something on your stomach and take a breath in. And then sing out, Night Mom, and you hold your breath for as long as you can, and it taps you into what your natural breath should be until you have nothing left, and then you take another breath in. Night Mom. So you have nothing left. So nothing left, and then take another breath. It's kind of a great way for young people to learn to breathe with what is a natural breath, so that when they stand up and sing, they can tap into that.
But now I'm all alone on my own, mama is gone. The strains of her melodies lingering on. Your tunes were full of those glorious deeds in the past, when virtue would triumph at last.
Well, how might these great skills that the students are learning with you help them in other areas of their lives?
Oh, well, theater skills and vocal skills you can use in almost any area of your life. For instance, if you're going to a college interview, speaking publicly at any point in their life, whether they become a CEO, a trial lawyer, a teacher, or even the head of the local PTA, being able to speak consciously with a resonant voice is a very empowering tool throughout life, whether you choose to pursue theater professionally or not. You know, there are so many things in life where we can become nervous and literally lose our breath. For instance, if you're sitting and waiting for a college interview and you find yourself doing a shallow breath and you can't even get your brain to connect because you're just out in outer space. I do an exercise which is very helpful with singers or in normal life, and it's called the straw exercise. And you basically sit, and it's something you can do, and people don't even need to know you're doing it. You can sit and take breath in and out very gently, and you can just walk and see people and talk to them and still be connecting to your breath, so that the fear place, which oftentimes kicks in biologically, lack of breath, instant fear, allows you to calm down, get centered, and let go of that incredible fear.
So you don't need an actual straw
No,
for the straw
you do
exercise?
not. You just pretend you're using a straw, because I mean that's a very simple thing to do. We all know what it feels like to suck in through a straw, not always blow out through a straw unless you're making bubbles in your chocolate milk, right?
We've all done that.
We have. And it's very small and it's very subtle. It's a way of disconnecting that fight or flight thing that happens physically when fear comes into play.
How are people empowered by the work you do with them?
Well, I think people are empowered by the work I do with them because I help them identify, access, and empower their own authentic voice. You know, the voice that they communicate to themselves and to the world at large with. You know, so often we aren't even really aware of what our authentic voice is because we spend so much of our life being told what we should be, what we shouldn't be. You know, Ruth Bader Ginsburg is a perfect example of someone that's a very powerful person, has a very soft voice, but she knows authentically what her voice is. And so that's my goal with people. And when they find that voice, it is a powerhouse. It gives them extra energy and life that you can't even imagine.
You may learn more about vocal coaching for teens and adults, audition masterclasses, and a new online vocal course by Alisa Endsley at singforthestage.com.
Spotlight is supported by the Glenn and Carol Pearsall Adirondack Foundation, dedicated to improving the quality of life for year-round residents of the Adirondack Park.